welcome to the City of Westland. I'm Westland's Mayor Bill Wild, and I want to thank all of you for being here today to not only report on this innovative partnership, but to celebrate the collaborative effort that will benefit many of our citizens and their families. We were having a little conversation in the hallway before we came in. I think a lot of people really get frustrated with government and lack of action. So today you're going to see innovative collaboration between the state government, the county government, local government, and the private sector. And I think that's pretty remarkable, because we're going to be talking about a national issue. And this is a national issue that Washington has not made part of their focus. So with that said, I think today's innovative partnership really speaks well to local solutions to a national problem. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Conference of Western Wayne's chairman and the mayor of the city of Romulus, Leroy Burkhoff.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor Wild. Thank you for hosting us in the beautiful Westland complex here. My role as the chairman of the Conference of Western Wayne is that we represent 18 communities and over 700,000 representatives or citizens. So when he talks about collaboration, that's what I love about the Conference of Western Wayne. Working for the greater good is what I call it, right? Isn't that what good government's all about? Yeah. Working for the greater good. Doesn't matter what your views are on this issue, we come together. And so people coming together as electeds, people coming together like St. Mary's Hospital, Growth Works, stepping to the table to be part of this solve. We have Representative Laura Cox, who stepped up to get the funding for this that made it possible. So it's good people doing the right thing for the greater cause, and that's why we're here. But a big part of it also is the county, and obviously they play an important role in that. And so it's my privilege at this time to introduce our Wayne County Executive, Warren Evans. Thank you, Warren.
I agree with what he said. But also, it is important, before I even talk about the opioid problem a little bit, this is kind of what's fun to do when you collaborate with medical field, you collaborate with universities, you collaborate with the Conference of Western Wayne. It's the team effort that makes things effective. And so this is always something. And by the way, for the little times we may argue about things, it's a minor part of it. We all are trying to work for the common good. The whole opioid epidemic is still amazing to me. As many of you know, Wayne County, along with Oakland County, filed a suit against the drug manufacturers with respect to the over-dispensation of opioid drugs, and if you look at the number of pills that have been prescribed and divide that into the population, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's almost impossible to believe that anybody could think that you'd need this much opioid medication to deal with the problems of the numbers of people involved, and then the overprescription of it, as overprescription, not in terms of the number of pills, but overproduction in terms of that as a therapeutic answer to the problem anyway. It costs the county an awful lot of money, as it does all of the communities represented behind me, with respect to health issues, first responder issues. I mean, we pay a significant price for the abuses that have occurred. And of course, the county is suing to try to recoup part of that, which I think is important, but that's only one step. I mean, that's not fixing a problem. That's just trying to remedy, in part, the problem that's been caused. What fixes the problem, I think, is what you're going to hear from people more technically sound than I do, but the peer counseling recovery kind of issue, so that you're dealing with people when they get this moment of clarity about, I've been taking these pills for a long time. I know I'm addicted to them. I may not have started out trying to abuse pills, but I understand this is not where I ought to be. And it's pulling me, it's pulling my family down, it's doing a number of things that aren't working. When you get that moment of clarity, either because the police have you in a headlock, and I don't mean that in a negative way, because you've created some problem for yourself or created a problem for a community, I mean, that's sometimes when that moment of clarity comes, or you wind up in the emergency room of a hospital on an overdose or some other related, and you get that moment of clarity. And when that occurs, there's got to be a mechanism to deal with it then. And peer recovery is extremely important. And you'll hear more about it with this program, but another part of the program is those who do the peer work are recovering addicts themselves. And the ability to connect, I can't minimize the credibility that comes from not just lecturing, but the person who you're talking to understands that you have been there and that has been an issue. And so I think it's a great opportunity for people to be helped. It's another piece of a bigger problem, which is, we'll sue all day and we'll do the best we can with that. But saving people's lives and being able to put them on a productive course is really what government's about. Government ought not be about anything other than people serving people. I mean, it's, we're not for-profit corporations. Our job is to help people. And this is a program that will help us do that. And it's a program that requires all of us to make it happen. And so I'm not here talking about it in terms of what great things the county did. I'm looking at it in terms of what great things the county as a part of a bigger group are making happen. And it's not just in these areas. There are a number of areas that are going on now where that kind of collaboration is important. Makes me happy to be in government about that sort of thing. I've been a lawyer for 40 years, but suing over widgets has never been my goal in life. My goal in life has always been to try to be in some way helpful in making lives better for people. And I think we're beginning to do that. And to a large extent, that starts from the money end of it. When you have community representatives like Laura Cox, who understands her community, understands us, understands that whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it really doesn't make any difference in terms of your health. She's always been a strong advocate for money and resources back into Western Wayne County. And I have to say this all the time. Wayne County has 1.7 million people in it. 1 million of them are outside of Detroit. So Detroit and Wayne County are not synonymous. Western Wayne is a huge part of Wayne County. Downriver is a huge part of Wayne County. And while, it's usually in Detroit where they put the media, the microphone in front of your face, so it always looks to the public like you're focused on Detroit, we at the county are focused on Wayne County. We're focused on 1.7 million people, and a lot of them are in the area of the Conference of Western Wayne. So I'm really glad to be here, to be a part of this team, and I will turn the microphone over to Laura Cox, who has put the money and the emphasis there, collaborating with folks in the legislature to see that we're treated well in this area. Laura. Thanks.
Good morning, and it's an honor to stand here with all these great leaders from Western Wayne County. I'm very proud to be a resident of Western Wayne County, and I think it's really important that we tackle the growing opioid epidemic, which has devastated far too many families in Michigan. Like my colleagues here, I've been and remain committed to ensuring we do all we can to protect families from the life-threatening ramifications of addiction. As the chair of the Appropriations Committee, I fought for solutions to increase access to treatment while strengthening requirements for pain management facilities. In addition, I voted to protect minors from opioid addiction by requiring medical professionals to consult with patients, especially students and parents, when prescribing opioid-based medications. As the chair of Appropriations, I was lucky. I had some people that were really smart, and they came to me and presented a plan. So we got to work with the Conference of Western Wayne, Wayne County, St. Mary's Hospital, and GrowthWorks. And this program really stood out when they presented it to me. The program combines specialized detoxification treatment and longer-term peer coaching, which the executive touched on, which helps participants avoid relapses on their way to getting out of their addiction. Together, they have developed an education program that will educate and train residents on the dangers of opioids and work with local law enforcement to help addicts receive treatments. I'm proud to announce that the state's 2019 fiscal year budget will have $500,000 to help fund the increased specialized detoxification services and an additional $115,000 for Wayne County to go throughout the county to present programs to educate people of the dangers of opioid addictions. Again, I'm very honored to work with these community leaders and to stop this horrible problem in our county and in Western Wayne County. And I'm very happy to be a part of this. And I'd like to introduce the president and CEO of St. Mary's Hospital, one of our partners, Dave Spivey.
Thank you, Laura. And first off, I'd like to thank all of you who are here today, particularly Chief Executive Evans, Representative Cox, Mayors Burkhoff and Wild, and a whole group from GrowthWorks and the Conference of Western Wayne. You know, our participation as a healthcare provider in this initiative really began in the late summer of 2016 when we were approached by Brian Spitzbergen from GrowthWorks following a particularly challenging, bad weekend in Western Wayne County where over four people died of opioid overdoses over that 4th of July weekend. And he asked us if we'd be interested in working with the judicial system and law enforcement, county officials, their organization, in creating a continuum of care to address this program. And I said, sure, this is great. The energy that Brian and his organization has brought to the table really lit a fire under us. And we committed to doing some things differently than we've done before. And what is really coming to the fore is the makings of an innovative program, as has been talked about here already, where local, county, state resources are coming together with law enforcement, with the judicial system and the healthcare community to work together to solve this issue. And I'm very pleased to report, the bedrock of this really, once that moment of clarity arrives, is the peer coaching element. And the connection of these patients that wish to rid themselves of this scourge, if you will, and the availability of someone who's walked in their shoes, former addict who can really assist them in navigating, their further treatment as well as other issues that confront them, whether it be connections for transportation or employment or interfaces with the judicial system. And I'm pleased to report, we're really in the startup phase of this. And we have peer coaches who are part of our organization now from GrowthWorks. And over the first 2 months of the program, participation in this have been offered to 91 patients. 72 of them accepted voluntarily into the program. So that just speaks to the desperate wish and need and willingness that these patients have to try to seek care and rid themselves of their addiction. I've also had the great pleasure of being able to work closely with the law enforcement community in Western Wayne County, and their commitment to this and the citizens of Western Wayne County and the communities in which they serve is truly awe-inspiring. Next steps, we're going to be expanding our capabilities for acute detoxification at St. Mary's. We're going to be introducing trauma therapy services into the mix because, many of these patients have associated traumatic backgrounds that are part of their issues as well. And then, another phase will be working with the judicial systems and law enforcement, who often, are the folks dealing with these patients, as County Executive Evans said, bringing them into treatment and looking at ways that we can help get them into treatment and potentially mitigate, some of their charges and judicial issues as well. So with that, I'm pleased to be able to introduce the video. One of the, Patrick Stropes, who is also with GrowthWorks, is really a pillar behind this program, and he's going to share with you in more detail with this video what the program is all about. So thank you very much.
The crisis has become so widespread.
The powerful opioid that
The
has
number of deaths involving cocaine and fentanyl.
Fentanyl drove a 74% increase in...
I almost killed my kids.
In 2015, the opioid-related deaths in Wayne County totaled just a little over 500. The very next year, 2016, the numbers had gone to 817. And that's just the lives that are lost. Doesn't count the lives that are hurt. We have to take some definitive action to deal with this.
The lowness of it is this: it's immeasurable guilt and shame. It is just a gut-wrenching feeling in your stomach, in your mind, in your brain, in your heart, an overwhelming feeling of just uselessness, just self-disgust. Oh, it's dark. It's so dark. The stigma is horrible. Society in itself looks upon addicts and alcoholics as low-life people in a sense. Not everybody, but quite a bit of them. All of our coaches have walked the path of the people that we're serving. So they have all experienced exactly what those individuals are experiencing. They understand when we walk in and we explain who we are and what we do, that we have walked in their shoes. And they understand that they can trust us and that we're there to help them because we've experienced exactly what they're experiencing at one point in our life. Rescue Recovery is what we've named our program at GrowthWorks. Basically going in, helping to rescue someone from active addiction and help them get into long-term recovery, hence Rescue Recovery. We're able to go into the hospital anytime that a patient wants to see a recovery coach and see them in the ER, see them in the behavioral health unit, see them in the chemical dependency unit. If they don't want to be contacted while they're in the hospital, they sign a release that says, have a coach contact me when I leave. What we do there is we blow their phone up for 10 days straight after their discharge from the hospital. See, we work off a moment of clarity when someone comes back from that overdose or somebody's in active addiction and they finally say, I need help. We strike at that point. So where I go back to the 10-day call log is that we blow their phone up for 10 days hoping to get another moment of clarity. Sometimes they just answer the phone because they're angry, but we're still able to get through to them and offer our services to them. That is extremely successful as well, which moves us to now connecting them in the community. A person with active addiction can go into the police department and say, I need help. The police department will contact us. We'll have a coach there 24/7, 365, the same as we do in the hospital, and get them connected into services, whether it be if they need to go to a residential facility, if they need to go to detox, if they need to get into clinical services. Then we move on to a really exciting piece, and that's with Wayne County Healthy Communities. Amazing. We're able to bring the clients that are discharged out of St. Mary's Hospital or that we deal with the police departments, or even in GrowthWorks intensive outpatient with domicile, meaning housing program. We're able to get them in here to the Wayne County Healthy Communities, set them up for their Vivitrol shots, which is an opioid blocker that helps them to move forward in their recovery, attacking cravings. And then we're able to connect them with health care, with primary care doctors, with dental work. If they have children, we're able to connect them with their pediatric care. It's absolutely incredible. The whole process is just amazing. Thank you, the state of Michigan. Thank you, Laura Cox. Thank you, Wayne County Healthy Communities, GrowthWorks, St. Mary's, the police departments. On top of that, we're able to connect with local communities that are possibly at high risk. Churches, community organizations, community groups that need help with education on substance use disorder. I'll tell you, through my 2 DUIs in active addiction and assaulting a Canton police officer in a 15-hour blackout from alcohol, Vicodin, and Adderall, I was connected through my probation officer to GrowthWorks, which I can say my probation officer to this day is my friend, which is powerful in itself. GrowthWorks saw something in me and took a chance. Through that, I have grown with the organization, which I give credit to and thanks for being in recovery as long as I have through my 1,675 days of recovery today. GrowthWorks plays an important part of that. They support me in every way. Our clinicians are amazing. I've had a lot of clinicians in my life, but I can honestly say, without bias, that we have some of the most amazing clinicians in any agency that I've ever dealt with. I draw power from my coaches. I draw power from the agency that I work with, the faith that they have in me. I draw power from my own personal recovery. I work a strong, rigorous recovery program, and I have to do that. I understand that I'm an addict and an alcoholic for the rest of my life, but I don't have to live in active addiction. And it's because of the people I work with, I work for, and the population that I serve that keeps me sober every single day.
I don't know what else I could say, Patrick. You said it all. We really appreciate that. I want to take a second to thank and acknowledge all of the first responders, both police and fire, that are here, that are a huge part of the solution here, and certainly very, very knowledgeable about the problems that opioids have caused and created. Also, I don't know how many of you all know anything about Laura Cox before she became a legislator, but she also was a federal agent and a law enforcement person for time, and certainly has knowledge in the criminal justice. She's way too young to have been a cop for 40 years like me, but she did a little police work. So I just wanted to take that minute and acknowledge everybody here, and the mayors and those who weren't mentioned before. We have the mayor of Livonia here. We have the supervisor of Canton Township, Pat Williams, Mayor Wright. We have Dan Glabe from Huron Township. We've got Mayor O'Reilly from Dearborn. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. The mayor of the City of Wayne. Glad to have all of you here. It is a privilege for me to work with everybody here. And thank you so much for the video. I think it meant an awful lot. We're prepared to take questions, and I think we'll also be around for a few minutes after that if you want to do individual questions. So if there are folks here that have any questions, if there's not somebody up here that can answer them, I don't know where you'd find somebody who could answer them.
So from the video, did I hear that a peer coach would be at each police station? Is that what I heard, or how would that work?
Anybody want to particularly answer that question? That's not my understanding of how it would. Okay, here we go. All right.
To answer that question is, my name is Brian Spitzberg in GrowthWorks, and what we've set up is a system where basically we have like a call-in center, and so any of the public safety departments would have the opportunity then to use that contact number, and we would dispatch at that point coaches to whichever department. So.
How many recovery coaches are there right now that are available?
We have
I'll let Pat
coaches right now, and we're currently hiring more.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the medication-assisted treatment, is that an option for everybody who wants it?
Correct.
Okay.
When they're at St. Mary's, we'll discuss that first. So under the medical end of it, we're not doctors. So under the medical end of it, St. Mary's Hospital's addiction specialists address that issue and get them connected to what would better suit their needs.
And I'm also wondering too about how much space capacity there is currently in the detox facility for people who need that.
You know, we're licensed for 10 beds. You know, we're running an occupancy of about 6 patients per day. We're planning to increase that by half, so we want to get up and running at 9 to 10 patients a day. So we're in the process of hiring additional staff and making that more available. But we also have intensive outpatient programming and day programming as well as programming at night. So we are enhancing our capacity to deal with this problem.
And how long does the detox, does your protocol usually take?
You know, the initial, well, let one of the professionals answer that one. It depends on the condition.
So one of the things that we've looked at is actually extending the detox stay. We haven't we haven't come up with, we're still working out the details of what that's going to look like. But at the moment, the idea is that if we can offer additional options in terms of medically assisted treatment, which would include potential for Vivitrol and like was Pat mentioned in the video, could be an extraordinarily effective opportunity. But it will be on a case-by-case basis, and it really will focus more on, you know, the medical professional side of this, of what's best for the patient, if that clarifies that.
I mean, right now, the lengths to stay on that detox unit are in the neighborhood of 5 days.
And the program has been in existence for 2 months now, is that right?
So we've been, yes, the coaching's actually been going probably a little bit longer than 2 months. We spent a lot of time and energy kind of making sure that we built the product properly. So we spent a lot of, you know, it's amazing to stand up in this room with everybody that's now standing behind me at the moment, because every piece of public safety, elected officials, community leaders, the hospital, GrowthWorks, like we painstakingly went through every possible detail and turned over every rock to make sure that we started doing this the right way, and that we were looking for the right solutions for our area. So yes, we embarked on the coaching part of this a few months ago to get our, you know, to see how, you know, work through some of the kinks, make sure that we were focused on doing the next right thing with that.
So to this piece too, we've already, when we started the piloting, even before the pilot, we responded to Canton Police Department and Northville Township Police Department to visit folks that were in lockup that needed help. The other very important piece to this is the judicial system through treatment courts, through, for instance, like the 35th, the 16th District Court in Livonia, Plymouth, the 35th, and Romulus, the 34th. There's one thing I want to wrap up with this, because I think we need to wrap up, is something that's extremely important and very dear to my heart. And I try to get through this without getting teary-eyed. You see, I went to 5 treatment centers, and I ended up living in a convent, homeless, for 15 months. The Detroit Wayne Mental Health Authority paid for that. I made a lot of money in my life. I went to highfalutin rehabs, but my life got to the point where I was in a convent run by Eastwood Clinics. And the Detroit Wayne Mental Health Authority paid for that. For that, I will owe them everything in my life. Darlene Owens is here that represents them. And they're our lifeline when it comes to supporting the active addiction addict and alcoholic, where we can call 800-241-4949 to get them connected into treatment, detoxification, residential treatment, clinical services. So I made it through that pretty good, Dale. Because I get very, very emotional when I talk about GrowthWorks, when I talk about the Canton Police Department, because they saved my life, and when I talk about the Detroit Wayne Mental Health Authority. So they are out there supporting us 24/7, 365, enabling us to be able to have a great impact on the population that we serve. And I'll wrap it by thanking every single one of you, especially law enforcement, public safety, because in my life, I created a lot of chaos. For Westland, for Canton, Mayor, I didn't get to Livonia yet, but let's hope I don't. Wayne, I didn't get there yet. Let's hope I don't. Thank you to St. Mary's and everybody else, so I'll keep it short and sweet, and thank you all very much.